So hello, and welcome to another BW Table Talk. And today is special for me because I have one of the original, do you hear me? Original BW Table Talk women at the virtual table. And so today I have with me Miss Tiffany Boyd. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
Girl, do you remember the table talks at my house?
Yes, I remember.
We was at a real table.
Yes, ma'am. Real talk.
Okay, Corona didn't shut it down, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm excited to have you, Tiff, because again, when I first started this ministry and this vision came into fruition, you were one of the first women to support me. It was 10 of y'all actually. And y'all supported me. Y'all held down the table talks and we had a blast. And so it was an honor to have you at my real physical table, and it's an honor to have you at the virtual table. So I just wanted to tell you that first and foremost.
Oh, well, I thank you. I appreciate that. I do, really.
So today, guys, we are talking about marriage, of course, but we're talking about generational curses and the curses that they have on millennial marriages. And so, Tiff, what are some of the curses that you see that's affect? Because you're in the millennial generation. I'm Generation X. And so, the millennial generation is what, from ages, what is it?
I think it's the kids, the people that were born in the 80s up until now.
2000, yes. Yes, 2000. After 2000 is Gen Z. So what curses do you see in the millennial marriages?
Actually, like the main ones are really not knowing how marriage is supposed to go, or either doing marriage the way that you saw it and there's no other way to do marriage. Basically not knowing, just not being knowledgeable in the areas of being married. They don't, kind of don't know how to be married. Those are kind of some of the curses that I see. Also, like if there's any problem, like small problems, it's just like people are getting divorced just off of very small things. But I mean, I know marriage is different for everybody else, and better or for worse is different for everybody else. It's different for everybody. Everybody has their what they can accept and what they cannot accept. So those are kind of like the curses that I see.
Wow, and it's so funny that you say that, because me and my son, we have this conversation all the time about in marriage is what you see it is. And my marriage is so toxic until the point my son was like, if this is what marriage look like, I don't want to be married, because he thought that's all that marriage entailed. And it was so much more to marriage that because he saw so much with me, his mom, he didn't even realize that marriage could be a beautiful thing and that it was a thing that God had created. But like you said, you only know what you see.
Right.
Wow. That's funny that you mentioned that. What was the second one that you said?
The second was just kind of not being knowledgeable. You don't know how to be married to someone.
Don't know
it's more than, you guys getting dressed up for everybody and eating great food and partying. It's way more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, because after the wedding is over, more people are preparing for weddings, but they're not preparing for marriages. So basically that's what the second one was.
Bingo. They preparing for the marriage. I mean, for the wedding, and not being prepared for the marriage. I said in another table talk that I had, everybody's gung ho on the wedding, but they not prepared at all for the marriage. But let's get to the second point that you made, because this is something I remember having a conversation with Philip's husband. I mean, not his husband, Lord have mercy, his uncle. Philip's my husband's uncle. I was having one of those days, one of those bad days. And I'm like, what is wrong with the Cobb's men? Because it don't seem like it's just me, like all of us, we all going through it, all of the Cobb's wives, that's what I was saying. And he said to me, have you ever thought about that they don't know how to be a husband? We put these expectations on our spouses, not knowing they can't live up to the expectations that we have placed on them. They put a ring on it and become our spouse, that they automatically just become perfect and they just automatically know what to do, and that's not the case. So you're a millennial, been married. So how is it for you being a millennial married?
Being in a millennial marriage, you just learn a whole lot as you go. And I will say that, you know, this is my concept of being married. I mean, nobody's perfect. It's always going to be something that needs to be worked on both ends. It takes a whole lot of forgiveness, but I will say this. I really think that women and men need to get out of the mindset that you have to suffer so much for somebody to treat you right. I really think that that's just not. I mean, I know that's something that, you know, our parents probably talked to us about, you know, about being married for 30 and 40 years, but I think that mindset needs to leave, that you have to go through so much suffering for somebody to love you correctly. Cuz to me, if a person really respects you and y'all being married in the marriage, I think that they'll make the necessary changes to try to make things better for the both of you guys.
Yeah.
Whether it's the wife or the husband, it really doesn't matter who it is. But I mean, making those changes, I'm not saying that it has to be immediately, but if you keep making the same mistakes over and over and over, it becomes a sequel. It does not become a mistake, you know, after you keep doing it over and over and over, because everybody deserves a second chance. Because this is me, long as you're not being abused financially, verbally, or, you know, physically, to me, you can work through anything, because people make mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, people make mistakes out of being in emotional spaces that they're not ready for. They say things they really don't mean because they're upset. They don't know how to communicate things out. It's just a lot that comes with being married, period. Even if it's not in a millennial marriage, it's just being married, period. You have to have a mature mindset that, okay, this can be fixed.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because you could very well get a divorce and end up with someone else, and the same problem will come up.
True. Yes.
The same problem will come up. Like I said, long as you're not being abused or anything like that, I really do think that you can work through some things. I
And
do.
realizing that they're human, you know,
Right. That.
make mistakes. They're not God. But
Yes.
that you said that was so profound is that our grandparents and our parents, you know, who stayed in these marriages for 34 years, and you feel like that no matter what happens, you just got to stay with it and you got to push through it. And that's the thing I like about Millennial, because y'all are like, we're not having it. Nope.
Right.
For us, we not staying, we not suffering. And that's a good thing, because you shouldn't have to suffer. You shouldn't have to question a person's love for you. And some people say, well, you know, everything that happened is about a lesson being learned. Okay, how many lessons do you have to learn from the same situation? So
Yes,
if
ma'am.
my spouse is being physically abusive to me, how many times does he have to punch me for me to learn the lesson that that hurts? You know,
Yes. Yes.
and of course we go through things, but the point is it has to be some kind of boundaries, and we have to say enough is enough. Okay, we've been going through the same thing for 15 years. We've been going through
Mm-hmm.
10 years. We've been going through this for 5 years. How long do you have to suffer? You
Exactly.
know, for
Because I mean, I see a lot of that. I
yeah,
see a lot of people being abused, and you know, you're staying in abusive situations. I mean, nobody has to actually physically touch you for you to be abused. That's one thing that I think most people don't understand.
we
If a
go,
person is constantly talking you down and trying to make you feel bad about yourself, trying to destroy connections that you have with people, just, you know, basically, I'm gonna be on just narcissistic behavior.
mhm,
It's time for you to let that go.
that
No,
is yes,
I mean, because not only does it destroy you, you know, it'll start destroying you physically, but your mental health. That's the main thing. Your mental health has to be good for you to, man, for us to work, for us to deal with anything. Your mental health has to be good. You have to take care of you before you take care of a husband. If you can't take care of you, you can't take care of a husband or children or your home. None of
that's
that.
so true. And I think that we think because it's not physical abuse, and I'm glad you brought that point up. A lot of women don't feel like they are being abused because it's not physical,
Mm-hmm.
but you have
Mm-hmm.
the mental, the emotional, the verbal abuse. And we have to get to a point um, that we realize that it is abuse. You know,
Mm-hmm.
don't have to put up with it, you know. And I'm not saying in marriages you can't go through a marriage and you can't put up with anything, because that's unrealistic.
Exactly.
No, it's like a give
I
and
agree.
But at the end of the day, you have to know that that person loves you and they want what's best for the family unit, you know. But when you don't see that being displayed, and a woman should never have to question your love. If you are having to question, do this person really love me? It's probably not love. Now, Tiff, do you think that self-esteem plays a role? Because me and Jess had this conversation at the virtual table last week. We were talking about women not loving themselves, not respecting themselves. Do you think that's a reason that a lot of people stay in the marriage?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I can say from a standpoint, even before I got married, I have been in like relationships that, you know, weren't married, but they were marriages, but they were like long term. And once I got out of it, I realized that, okay, I had to ask myself, what was wrong with me for me to stay in something like that, you know? And you just realize that, okay, I'm lacking in some own areas in myself for me to allow someone to constantly talk to me like this or constantly do me like this in public embarrassment, pushing me around and things like that. You just have to do some self-evaluation, and it's okay. It's not always pretty when you see yourself, but it's okay. As long as you see yourself, that's the thing. Long as you see it and you know, you learn to work on it. You learn to love yourself where you are. And you just move forward. Like, you know how us girls are. We just, man, we're always want to be on a diet. We always want to have these perfect bodies. But you just have to learn, like, okay, I'm going to take this one step at a time, and I'm going to love me where I am, and I'm going to keep on moving. So,
And
yeah.
said it because it's not, when you do self-reflect, it's not always a pretty picture. Sometimes you'll see that you probably was the problem. I know we had this conversation all the time, and he said, two things with you. First of all, you talk too much. Second of all, you don't listen. And I'll be arguing him, I don't talk too much. I do listen. And one day he proved to me, he said something to me. He said, what did I just say? And I was so busy talking I didn't even hear what he said. So when you do look at yourself in the mirror, sometimes what's looking back at you is not a pretty thing to see. But we still have to move past the uncomfortable and still do what we need to do to become better. Because sometimes, you know, it's our actions. You know, it's not okay because my mama always did it. Going back to those generational curses you talked about.
Right.
So, okay, my mama always did this. You know, even my son, him and his wife, they were going through this thing. And one of the things he said to her, because it was about cleaning up. And most people know me, know I'm a clean freak anyway. That's just me by nature. And so he was like, you should clean up. That's what my mama always did. So her response to him was, I'm not your mama. You know, so sometimes our actions, we do curse our kids in their marriages because they expect for it to be like what they saw, whether good or bad. You know, I saw my mom, you know, curse my stepdad out hundreds of times. So the first time somebody make me mad, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna curse you out.
Right. It's because it's just like a learned behavior. You can't, I mean, just to be honest, you can't really help because it becomes impulsive. You know, it becomes impulsive because that's what you've always seen.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, all you can do is work on it. You can apologize and work on it. You know, I take apologies serious, especially when the apology is said, okay, I'm sorry for this and I'm going to work on it. So, I mean, that's showing that, you know, you're taking some self accountability for what's going on. And you're admitting that, okay, this is an area that I have a flaw in and I'm going to work on it. So.
And then when you apologize, it has to be followed up with action. You know, and I'm going to work on it. I need to actually see you working on it. I need to be doing that. And that's another thing that you said that was so important, that self-responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions, and that accountability. You know, back to me cursing my husband out just because I saw my mama. I had to take responsibility for that because I knew it wasn't right. You know, I read the Bible front and back, you know. So I know, but so I have to take responsibility for my actions. I can't say, well, he made me curse him out. You know, it's all about that responsibility and being accountable for who you are as a spouse. What are some other generational curses that you see in marriage, Tiff?
Basically, Man, like the saying, like, keep your business in your house.
Mm-hmm.
That's one other thing. Like millennial marriages, we kind of, you get mad, you'll go to social media and you'll say some things, and then you just kind of have to retract what you said. But you don't realize what damage you can actually do by doing so. I mean, at the point of you being upset, you don't realize that, okay, that I could be creating a whole nother problem, and I already have a problem.
You millennials
So,
that y'all put everything on social media.
man, we be cussing people out all types of. It's true. We'll cuss you out on the internet. You ain't even on the internet, but we gonna cuss you out on the internet though.
Gen X do it too, but y'all have taken it to another level. Y'all have no
Yeah, baby, too far. Okay, too far.
out there with the camera. Oh my goodness.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So keeping your business off social media and in the house where it belongs.
Right.
The curses that you see. And I can't say that because y'all are the tech savvy generation. Everything is about technology for you all. So I can see that. But there's also a decrease, Tiff, is what I've seen in millennials wanting to be married. Do you think it is because of what they saw in the home? Like, for instance, my son, even though he ended up getting married, but when you look at statistics, millennials are not getting married like Gen X or Gen Y. They rather shack than to marry. And so it's a big, I think they said when I was looking up last week, it was only like 36% of millennials get married at this time. They just don't want to do the whole marriage thing.
Wow. Man, I will say this. I'm gonna tell a little bit of my story. I got married I was about 26, and I was just determined to do everything the right way. I was determined for us to never live together, which we did. We never lived together before we got married. We didn't have any children before we got married. But see, this is the thing. I'm gonna be totally honest about that. Even from a person that's in ministry, I'm gonna be totally honest with you about that. Even if you do or try to do everything the right way, that does not exempt you from having issues. Because Jeremiah 29:11 tells us he has plans for us, and they're plans of good and not of evil. But that does not exempt you from having the issues of life. It doesn't. So even if you do everything the right way, you're still gonna have some issues. That's just a part of life. He said, in the Bible, he tells us, that you're gonna have some days of trouble, but be of good cheer. So, I mean, just to be honest with you, I do agree with that, because I feel like a lot of people feel like, okay, we can live together. We don't have to get married. I mean, because I see everybody else getting married and they're not staying married.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, but you have to realize that, how do I say it? That just because somebody else got married and they got a divorce doesn't mean that you're going to get one. But it's kind of like the perception that's given nowadays, because so many people are getting married and not taking being married serious. Mm-hmm. So, and the part about the at-home life, I'm going to say this. I mean, you can be a person that lives with your parents and you can be on the outside. You're still on the outside looking in, because you don't know as much as you think about their marriage. You really don't. If you ever see, for example, have I ever seen my parents get into an argument? Man, yeah. I mean, but it just really didn't give me a bad concept of how marriage went, because even after I saw my parents get into an argument, I always saw either one of them, the argument, that I assumed started the argument, the person would go to the person and try to fix it. I never saw days and days of them being upset at each other. No, I didn't. Mm-mm.
Which is good. Yeah.
So, I mean, and even if, they did have like a really, really big issue, it's like the issue just got better with time, just like anything else. I guess you just have to look at stuff. You just have to have a different mindset when looking at your parents' marriage, because like I told my dad a couple of weeks ago, I admire that they got to 34, almost 35 years of marriage. And he did remind me that, okay, there have not been always good days, but this is the thing. I'm going to always make sure, and I've always made sure, that I took care of you, your mom, and your brother. I'm never going to not take care of my responsibility or be who I'm supposed to be to y'all just because I got upset, you know. And that's my concept, you know, that's my kind of, you know, vision of seeing a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no matter what you're going through, I mean, you still have to respect your marriage and your family.
Yeah.
So, and I mean,
So,
but I do agree. I do believe that what you're saying is accurate, that only a few millennials are getting married nowadays. I do believe that.
and what your dad said is real talk, and it takes a real man to say, you know what, no matter what me and your mom going through, at the end of the day, the thing that's most important to me is my marriage to my wife and taking care of my kids. You know,
Mm-hmm.
real right there. And that's, to me, that's what love looks like. That no matter, at the end of the day, when all of the arguing and fussing and cussing and stuff settle, at the end of the day, we still want what's best for each other. The problem is
Mm-hmm.
that when you start hitting below the belt and you no longer want what's best for me anymore, you know.
See, that's right. And that's where there's a problem. And to me, that's where counseling and stuff goes into play. And to me, after counseling, if you don't want to fix it after counseling and after we're both trying to restore things, one person can't fix a marriage.
Truly.
It takes two people. So if you're going to counseling just because she wants to go to counseling, I mean, and you're just going to just to keep her mouth shut, or you're just going to keep his mouth shut. I mean, going to counseling won't fix anything if you don't want to fix the issue. It won't. Mm-mm.
You have to want the help. Yeah, you're so
Mm-hmm.
right on that. And do you see a lot of millennials going to counseling though? Is that something that y'all are big on? Because I know for Gen X, for my generation, and even my husband's generation, he's a baby boomer. And when we first started having our problems, that was the first thing I said, we need counseling. He was like, he was totally against it. I literally had to give him an ultimatum. Either you going to, it's over. So
Mm-hmm.
that with millennials is counseling. Do y'all mind going to counseling?
Now I like going to counseling. There's nothing to me. I don't think that anybody that's 30 years old does not need counseling. I think everybody in the world needs counseling. But do I see people like millennial marriages want to go to counseling? No, ma'am. You have guys that, you know, before y'all get married, you're supposed to have premarital counseling. People don't want premarital counseling anymore because they feel like that from what I've heard guys talk about, and females, that they feel like that they're going to go in to the premarital counseling and the counselor is always going to be on the other sex's side. Not even giving it a chance. It's just, I have my own perspective of this and that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't mind going to counseling. I really love going. I actually do go to a counselor. I went to a counselor after I had my son. I started going after I had my son. But yeah. I mean, I think counseling is a very good thing. I think that's the way that you kind of can get some things out. And you can have a professional perspective on what you have going on. So I think counseling is a great thing. I
I think
do.
it's awesome too, but I think for me and my generation, that was one of, when we talking about generational curses, that was one of the generational curses because, like my mom, my grandmother, and even my great grandmother, and I hear my great grandmother say it a lot. What goes on in this house, if it goes on in this house, it stays in this house. And that means not only do you not tell your friends and your neighbors, you ain't talking to no counselor, you ain't talking to the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Goes on in the house, stays on in the house. And I think that was a generational curse because in the Black community, counseling became like taboo. That's something you don't do. You don't go tell people your business. That was
Yeah.
how other races do, but Black people didn't take advantage of it, not knowing that was such a good tool. Because I look at counselors as being God's vessels on earth to give us the tools to live
Yes, they are.
a marriage. No, but can they give you the tools for you to do it? Because you have to do the work. I think absolutely they can, and I think it's a good thing. But so many people are totally against it, and I think it's a generational curse thing because you was raised. You don't go put your business out there like that.
Mm-hmm. And
And
I think it's also like, it's kind of got like this bad stigma anyway. Like if you go to counseling, you have like you're crazy. I don't know why people say that, but I think it's connected to a lot of mental issues. that people will not attend counseling, because you can hold something in for so long. And I talk to anybody about it, and I mean, trust me, it is going to spill over, whether you like it or not. It's gonna spill over.
Because you become a ticking time bomb. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And it just works. I don't know why people don't want to get the help if it's made available for you.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in my own marriage work, and it really do work. The tools that was given to us, it works. And to be honest, I don't think if it had been for counseling, I don't think we would still be married.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just the tools that they gave us. We had to actually implement the tools. And I mean, years later, like something as simple as one of the things the counselor told my husband, take your wife on a date. Spend that quality time and set a date aside. And that date for us back then was Sunday. And here it is years later, and we still practicing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up.
To spend time together. One of the things she told us, don't hit below the belt. Even in the midst of arguing, you have a tendency to say something. She said, but when you say something, you can't take those words back. So it makes us mindful of what we say, because I used to be all kind of B's and H's. He was SOBs and MFs. And girl, when I tell you, it was. I apologize. I thought I had my ring on. But she was saying that's hitting below the belt, because once you say that, you can't take it back. And you normally saying it when you angry, but what about when you're not angry? That person is still thinking about, oh, he think I'm a B. Or, oh, she think I'm a, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I agree.
It's something we still, implement. One of those things she told us, no matter how uncomfortable it is, don't go to bed angry. That's biblical. You're not,
yes, it is.
not even supposed to let the sun set, the Bible says. So
Mm-hmm.
telling us wasn't something that God already had told us. She was just reminding us, and that's something we still practice. We start seeing it getting dark outside. One of us gonna say, "You ready to talk?" Because we know I'm finna set.
Right. That's what's up.
Yeah, I think they give you the tools.
But yeah, I totally agree, especially like with the hitting below the belt, because I don't think he'll mind me sharing this, but like I had like this friend guy that I work with, and he told me that his mom was an alcoholic growing up. And him and his wife, yeah, they are in transition of getting a divorce because they just could not work things out, because she didn't want to go to counseling and all of that, but yada yada. But in an argument, she said that his mom could not keep the baby. And he was like, he didn't know why she couldn't keep the baby. And his wife said that because she's a drunk, and it made him suicidal. He had to go to counseling. And I mean, you just don't realize what you actually say to people. If you know somebody's childhood trauma, this means do not
Yeah.
do not bring that up, because most people don't like to talk about it, and they definitely don't want to go to counseling about it. So you have to be real careful, especially as women, with what we say, and men also, but just to be honest, women, that's kind of like our tool of defending ourselves. We say things. That's how women are. That's, it's just by nature we do that. But I mean, you just have to be accountable for what you say. I mean, especially something that's sensitive like that. Okay, your mom she's a drunk. I mean, you already know that his mom was an alcoholic when they were growing up. He might have not even discussed everything with you that happened in that process. So you have to remember that that's a place that he needs healing in, and you're his wife. So you're there to be his helpmate. You're there to not heal him, because God can only do that, but you're there to lift him up and build him up. Don't bring that type of stuff up. Mm-mm.
And you have to be, because as spouses, we do come with our baggage, and we do come with our wounds. But as spouses, you have to be a part of the healing process. You can't go pull a scab off of a wound to hurt your own spouse. And I think too, when we hurt our spouse, we hurt ourselves, because whatever affects them affects us by default. Whatever damage you're doing to them, it's almost like you're doing it to yourself.
Exactly.
I had a friend, she was just going through her husband's money. I'm like, when you get through going through his money, not only is he gonna be broke, y'all are gonna be broke. because it's
together.
and there's no I in we. So whatever you do to your spouse, it's like you doing it to yourself. And why would you want to hurt yourself?
Exactly.
So that's so important. And I think you brought up some very good points, because I don't think a lot of times we think about the things that we go through, the things that we do, the things that we say are actually generational curses. It goes from one generation and to the next generation, and to one day we wake up and we realize, man, that's dysfunctional.
You're right.
Growing up, my mom, all three of us, my brother and my sister, we all have three different dads. So same thing with my grandmother. My great grandmother only had one child, which was my grandmother. My aunts, they had different kids. None of us as cousins can say that our parents have kids by the same man. And so when I had all my kids by three different men, I thought that was normal.
Right.
So sometimes dysfunction becomes functional if that's what you see as normal. You get out into a world and you start learning and growing, and you be like, that ain't normal. That's not normal. So generational curses just get passed on from generation to generation, until somebody makes the stand to say, you know what, I'm gonna be the one to break this generational curse. I'm gonna be the one to make a stand, so that my kids and my great grandkids and my grandkids, they won't have to deal with the same thing that I had to deal with. Somebody have to kill that giant, because it's just gonna keep going generation through generation. The only thing is gonna be who gonna be the David to kill the Goliath. Which one of us is gonna, And I made a choice some years back, because I lived a very harsh lifestyle, But I'm like, is this the kind of life that I want for my daughter? Is this what I want for my granddaughter or my great granddaughters or great grandsons? So I need to make a choice not to live a harsh lifestyle. I need to be the one to break the generation curse. It's almost like a domino effect. If I'm a domino, then everything behind me is gonna fall off of them. Because when you remember when you were a child, you line all the dominoes up and then you hit it back. I wanted to be the first domino to fall, just to break it from my family, because it was I just saw it from generation to generation. And when you see that coming up as a child, that's normal to you, because that's your world. Yeah.
But you know what, even in that, I will say this. I mean, some things that we go through in life, we just have to just realize, because I just went through something recently on this year, and I'm just like, man, really? I'm like, I have all these great things going, and I'm trying my best to do everything the correct way. And I mean, and here I am in this space. But I had to realize, and I mean, even with breaking generational curses, you have to remember that the reason why you're in this space and why God allowed this to happen in your life is because He's using your story to help somebody else. So even if the story isn't the greatest to you in your mind, you have to remember everybody's story is a beautiful story. It always has a beautiful ending, because God always creates beautiful endings. Even if there's a lot of turbulence and turmoil in the beginning, God still prevails over those turmoils and those troubles in life. So, I mean, all I can say, it is what it is. I've been learning to say that every day. It is what it is. I guess this is the way He meant it to be. And I just have to find a way to be cool with it and just keep it moving.
So is that how you get out? Because I heard you say I was in a bad space this year. For the women watching now, how do you get out of that bad space? Because for different people, bad space looks different. But how did you get out of your bad space?
Okay. Getting out of that bad space, I just had to realize, girl, this is not what you know you deserve to be in. This is not what you deserve to keep constantly dealing with. You are not anybody's counselor. You're not there. You're not, just to be honest, you're not the Lord over anybody's life. So you can pray for a person, but you also have to take care of you in the process. I mean, you can't let yourself go down and just kind of just let yourself go because of what's going on. Yeah. You have to learn how to live. You have to get up and live. That's all I can say. You just have to get up and live. You have to forgive and live.
There you go. Forgive and live. Did y'all hear that? Forgive and live. Those are the practical steps to.
And I'm gonna credit my sister in ministry. Her name is Anita Frencher. Reverend Anita Frencher for that, because she said it a couple of weeks ago, and that really touched me. She said, "Forgive and live," because we talk on the regular about different things, and she's been there for me since 2020 started, and she's been there with me for probably about 10, 20 years. Shoot. But I mean, she has really been my go-to person. And I mean, and she told me that, you know, in a message she posted on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. She said that a couple of weeks ago, not told me, but she said, "Forgive and live." And that is so true. You have to forgive people for the apology that they refuse to give you and move on with your life. You
Yeah.
don't have to stay in that space. You don't have to keep on living that, living the incident, reliving the incident over and over. Just kind of just find that headspace of yourself being happy. Just find your happy.
Yeah.
Even if it's just you just having peace in your home, find that peace. Fight for it.
Yeah.
That's all I can say about that.
That's so powerful. It sounds simple, but it's so powerful. Those two words that you said, that's some of the best advice you could have given. Forgive and live. And as you already said, sometimes you won't get that apology, but you forgive anyway, because unforgiveness holds us hostage. It holds us hostage to the jail of pain, the jail of hurt, the jail of discontentment, you know. But when you can forgive and go, like she said, go ahead and live and go on with your life. Because when you forgive, it sets you free. So you don't have to keep living in it. Because like she said, when you don't forgive, even though you're not physically living it, you living it in your mind over and over and over. And it just plays out over and over again. And so, oh my goodness, that's so powerful. And so, Tiff, I have enjoyed talking to you today about generational curses. I always ask anybody who come to the virtual table any last words that they want to leave. I think you have already left them, but I'm gonna give you the opportunity if there's anything else you want to say before we close. But that forgive and live. Oh my goodness, that's the mantra for 2021. Going to the new year with. Wow, that's powerful.
Yes. Well, I will say I appreciate, you allowing me to come on or whatever. That I was supposed to do something for you when you first started, and something came up, and we're going to have a girl sit down about what came up or whatever. But I do want to apologize for my absence in that. I mean, I wasn't ready to talk about what was transpiring at the time, but I mean, I'll get, when all of this corona thing is over, maybe we can have a girl sit down and talk about what transpired or whatever. But moving forward, I pray blessings on all women and all women of BW, and everybody just continue to grow. And I'm so grateful for your ministry. I'm so grateful for your vision, and this has been amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you, God. So I will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.